Hi friends and welcome. If you've been making cards very long, you likely have a die cutting machine and some dies in your collection. Now, we usually use these to cut out pieces of paper, add them to our cards. Today I want to show you another way to use those dies to make something that you might be buying separately, which are stencils and masks. We can make absolutely beautiful cards by using stencils and masks to create backgrounds and decorative pieces. Today I want to show you how to use those dies to create some of these stencils and masks that you can keep in your collection forever and make some beautiful card projects. Let's get started. Here are some stencils and masks that I have in my collection. Now you'll notice these are made out of plastic. That makes them resistant to ink, easy to clean. So how are we going to make our masks and stencils out of plastic? We are going to use a product called window sheets or acetate sheets. So this is what they are going to look like when we get done. Here is one of these sheets and I want to show you how to make them. Then we're going to see some really nice card examples and finish a couple of cards together. So what you're going to need is a die. This is one I am using. We're going to make a card with this. I can't wait to see it completed with this Magnolia Mood bundle, which is beautiful. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my platforms for my die cutting machine to show you how you want to do this, how you want to cut these out. Now, you can try using your die directly on top of your window sheet, run it through your machine as normal and see how that comes out. For me, a lot of times it doesn't give a complete cut because these are a little bit harder to cut through than paper. So what I typically do to make this work, I lay out a piece of scrap cardstock. Occasionally I find I even have to double this up, fold it in half and get 2 layers of cardstock here and run this through, die cut this out, and then poke it, if there's little detailed pieces, get those all poked out and removed. A couple of things to keep in mind. You can cut these out of regular paper, regular cardstock. They're just going to be more durable and last longer if you use the window sheets. One other thing to keep in mind, you want to make sure the piece you start with is definitely larger than the die that you're using. This piece would be a little small. I would cut this at least 1/2 inch, maybe more like 1 inch larger than the die itself on all the sides. That gives us plenty of room when we are using blending brushes or sponges or spritzers, whatever you want to use with these. Plenty of room around the outside to protect the card. So after you have that cut, this is when the fun part starts. So let's make a couple of cards and then I have even more samples I want to share with you at the end. So let's take a look at this beautiful Magnolia card first. I can't wait to see this finished. I am using Pebbled Path cardstock and also the same color of ink. And I'll mention here quickly, after I cut this one out, you're going to see that on some of these I used the actual die cut itself. On some I used the leftover piece, the negative. So on this one, I actually, after I got it cut, I used some multi-purpose glue. Love this stuff. Let it dry. I set it aside and let it dry for probably 10-15 minutes. And now that adhesive is removable. It's going to hold it in place and allow me to blend over the top with my blending brushes. With our other masks, you're going to see that we can use tape to hold everything together. But for this one, there was nowhere that I could tape it to my card where it wouldn't interfere with me blending the ink on. So that's why I decided to put the removable adhesive, that glue that dried, on the back of this one. Now, if you're using that glue, something to keep in mind is it can be a little too sticky. It can damage your project. So after I put the glue on, and it was all the way dry, of course, I patted it against my clothing a couple of times, my shirt, which picked up enough lint that it removed some of that sticky and it wasn't going to damage my project at that point. So take a look at this. Isn't that beautiful? Now let's finish this up real quick. I already have some pieces prepared. I'm gonna put a little piece of ribbon here that coordinates. I'm gonna mention this. I don't talk about this very often, but I should. One of my favorite things about Stampin' Up! Products is the coordination. So you're gonna see here my cardstock and my ink and my ribbon all coordinate. If you spend a lot of time trying to find things that coordinate and you get frustrated with it, take a look at our products because the coordination is a lifesaver. So here you can see this finished card. It was so easy to create, and isn't that beautiful? I just absolutely love this, made with that Magnolia Mood bundle. Okay, let's make another one. Love purple. We're gonna bring in some fresh freesia cardstock and my mask. And this one I actually made with a punch. So keep in mind, you can create these with punches as well. This is called the bow punch, spelled B-O-U-G-H, the bow punch. And when you're punching through window sheets, it can be a little difficult to get them punched, but give it a little more elbow grease and you should be able to get it punched through. And again, now we have this mask that we can use over and over and over again. So what you can do to hold these in place, if you are not sure if you can hold it in, sometimes, a lot of times, I'll just hold it in place with my hand if I feel like I can keep it in the right spot without anything moving on me. But sometimes I'll go ahead and use tape just to help a little bit, make sure everything stays where I want it to be. So I am just going to move this several times. We're going to create a nice background on this one. I really like this leaf punch. It's one I have used over and over again, but I've never used it like this. So this is a fun new way to get another use out of it. So some of these I'm going to blend darker. Some of them I'm going to leave a little bit lighter. Let's do this a few more times. I'm just going to hold these and see if I can keep it from slipping around. I love my blending brushes. If you have not tried blending brushes yet, they're a really nice way to add some really unique, beautiful, it makes your projects look really professional without a lot of work. So I will have links to all the products I'm using in the video description below if you want to take a look at any of them. Now that one got a little bit darker, which is nice. I like to use color variation on my projects. I think when you add more of those lights and darks that it really adds a lot to the project. I wanted to keep the background pretty subtle, but I do like adding some of those lights and darks. Okay, so we're getting pretty well filled up here. Just do one here, and I think one more right here. We could keep adding if we wanted to, but let's go ahead and stop there. Now let's finish this quickly. And I want to add, I decided to pull in, I love that the stamp set I decided to use for the greeting, it's called Layering Leaves. And it was just kind of a coincidence. I thought, oh yeah, these leaves in here coordinate with the same punch I just used to create this mask. So seemed like a good chance to add some of these nice little leaves behind my greeting. So here's the greeting I'm using, So Happy to Celebrate You. And I'm going to add some of these leaf punches in the background, and then we'll put this over top. So when I add little detailed pieces like this to my projects, a lot of times I will do it with a glue dot. I don't know if you can see, I have put a glue dot on each one of these, and I just find that makes it really easy. I can press it down, it stays where I want it to. I don't have to worry about glue drying or anything. And even though my glue dot is a little bit bigger than that stem and it sticks out a little bit, once I put my greeting over top, we won't have any of that extra adhesive showing. Here's a couple of those smaller branches. Just love this glimmer paper. I thought that would be a nice addition here. And two more. I'm really looking forward to showing you these other samples. So stick around, we'll take a look at them in just a minute. Okay, so we'll put our greeting tag on top. All of the cards that I created today, I used the Something Fancy dies to create the tags. It's a really nice, versatile set that has some really, really great, like I said, versatile dies in it. Okay, let's add a little bow. Here is a tip. If you want to attach a twine bow with a glue dot and your glue dot is too big, roll it up carefully. You can use your fingers, you can use, take your pick tool for this. We'll add this on right here. I am going to add a few gems. I love these and they coordinate nicely. And then this one is done, and I want to get to sharing those other two with you because they are very nice as well. So I love to share. If you watch along with my videos, you probably know I really like to share lots of ways that you can use your products. Once you get those products in your collection, we want to find as many ways to use them as possible. So if you're new here, I would love for you to subscribe. Let's take a look at this finished one. Isn't that pretty? So simple to create that, and it turned out really nice. Okay, let's take a look at two other samples I have here. This next one I created with a die set called Light the Sky. I think this is a really fun set. I find it hard to find like 4th of July things, patriotic. I think this is great for that, plus birthdays and celebrations. So what I did, I cut all three of the detailed dies out of a couple of pieces of window sheet here. And then here is what I was able to create. Look how simple this is. I just did two of the large ones with some red ink, two of the small ones with some blue ink, added this really nice greeting. I pulled out a couple of my favorite stamp sets for greetings. This one for men, this one for women, and these were the ones I wanted to use to finish these cards. So you can see how quick and easy that was. Again, I used that same die set on here. And let's look at one more. For this one, can you see my leaves here? I used a die set called Autumn Leaves. And you'll see there are two of each of these small leaves in this set. So what I did was I put this on my platform to run it through my cut and emboss machine, and I cut 6 of them, so 2 of each. And then after I pulled it back out, had those removed, I ran it back through until I got this whole piece created. So take a look at this one. So simple, so very simple, but such a pretty card. So I used crumb cake cardstock, and when I blended this one, I mixed 2 colors of ink together. I used Mossy Meadow and Pecan Pie, and after I had blended it with that mask in one location, then I went ahead and I retaped it in another location and added some more leaves over top, which I thought turned out really nice. So, and again, this stamp on this one is from that Legendary Ride stamp set that I said I really like for greetings for men. So I hope this gives you another fun way to use those dies in your collection. Hope you'll have fun creating some masks and some stencils that you can use with your blending brushes, your spritzers, or sponges, or other coloring tools in your collection. Thanks for being here. I'm going to flip my camera around and we'll chat for a minute. So as you know, if you follow along with my videos, at the end we chat about life and I try to offer something encouraging to you. So here's what I have today. what are you filling your minds with? When I think about this world and the last few years that have been somewhat difficult for me, and all of the messages that we are fed from this world, for me, it became really important to very carefully regulate what information I was allowing into my mind. So let's talk about an analogy. If we're raising a garden, okay, how's our garden going to turn out if we are watering it with gasoline and windshield washer fluid and soap? It's probably not going to do very well, right? So I know mental health has become such a big thing, this world we live in, fear and anxiety and depression and all the things. So if we can monitor what we are feeding our garden with, I think the results we're going to get out of that are going to be a lot better than when we were openly listening to all of the things that are not always terribly positive. So what this has looked like for me, when things were really hard, I was not really listening to much of anything. I work at home, crafting, helping on the farm, all kinds of things around here. So for me, this is probably a little bit easier to do than if you are going to job every day or you're out and about a lot. I don't know, I'm sure you've heard statistics before on the number of messages we receive on a daily basis, like billboards and radio and TV and social media. And we are just being fed information and messages nonstop. Most of those messages have an agenda behind them that we should buy something or we should do something that's going to create some end result that's good for someone out there with a lot of money typically. But if we can turn some of those things off, and I think it really helps us come back to ourselves, who we are, help us to get our minds back into a healthier place. So like I said, what that looked like for me, I pretty much turned everything off. There are times where my Christian music has kind of been the fuel in my fuel tank. So at times I'm listening to a lot of it. At times I just felt like I needed quiet. Not watching a lot of news, maybe not watching any news. At this point, I listen to Christian music. I occasionally listen to a podcast that I selectively choose, something that offers me positivity. And I also listen to some audiobooks, but I'm not watching a lot of news. Sometimes I question that, like, should I know everything that's going on in the world? I don't think we were created to know everything that's going on in the world. I don't think our little minds can handle that. I think it's too much. So I know we're all different, but if you are struggling with your mindset, with mental health, with fear, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, I'd really encourage you to evaluate what kinds of things you are letting in to water the garden that lives in your head. Thanks for being here today, everyone. I appreciate you. I will see you again next time when I'll be back helping you to hand make with love.